This is NoiseDash. NoiseDash is a self-hostable web tool for generating ambient noises. With NoiseDash, you can generate and customize ambient noises and user-uploadable samples leveraging Tone.js. You can save noise profiles so you can easily switch between your created soundscapes. You can import and export them for easy sharing and record them for use elsewhere. You can fine-tune your noises with audio processing tools, filters like LFOs, and effects. You can upload and edit audio samples, examples would be rain, wind, or thunder, to combine with your generated noises and add effects to them and set playback modes. There are admin tools to manage multiple users, and it's mobile friendly. Best of all, NoiseDash is Docker friendly. And in this video, I'm going to kind of give you a quick demo as far as how NoiseDash works. And then we'll take a look at actually getting it set up in Docker. And then we'll talk about some remote access stuff as well. So with that said, let's jump over to my desktop and take a look at NoiseDash. So this is the NoiseDash dashboard, and across the top, of course, it says NoiseDash. We've got some playback options of play and stop. Once you click play, there's no pause. It is either play or stop, so those are kind of your options there. And we've got some profiles under here. By default, we've just got one profile. This is the default profile, that there's really nothing going on there yet. But we do have the option to play some noise if we wanted to do that. So from here, of course, we've got our noise and our volume. Let's turn this up a little bit so that we kind of get an idea of what's going on here. What I'm going to do is just click play. And that's kind of what the default pink noise sounds like. We do have the options for pink, white, and brown noises. If you have a particular noise, kind of noise frequency that works better for you, there are some in here kind of pre-ready to go. I need to backtrack just a minute here. You can create new profiles. You can duplicate profiles. You can import and export profiles. Let's say you've created something and you want to share it with somebody. You can do that by exporting or importing. You can also record your profile audio. So let's say you've made a soundscape that you like and you want to put it on your phone, take it with you, listen to it later. You could do that. Of course, this is, as I mentioned earlier, mobile friendly. So if you made this available to the internet, you could do that as well. But you do have the option to export sound, record sounds, things like that here in the dashboard. So below that, of course, like I said, we've got our noise settings. This is the slider for whichever noise color you've chosen. And below that, we've got filters. So if we were to, play this and add a filter, we can do any kind of any number of different types of filters: low pass, high pass, band pass, low shelf, high shelf, notch, all pass, and peaking. And you can, of course, change any of this stuff here. And oops, let's take that off, and then we can adjust, the cutoff here. So let's just kind of do a quick demonstration here with some white noise. We're gonna go ahead and click play. And if I bring this up, of course, we can adjust the volume there. So that is the low pass filter. And if you wanted to, of course, you can do a high pass, band pass, and of course, each of these are configurable, as far as the cutoff for each of these different settings. I don't want to kind of get into too much of that because that's a lot of noise, right? Of course, that's what we're here for, but I just kind of wanted to do a demonstration of what that looks like. Below that, if you've got the filter here enabled, there's also a filter cutoff LFO that you can also do, if we click this. So you can have a little fun with kind of what those different filters do and what it does to the sound, that sort of thing. Of course, we're just using white noise for the sake of this little demonstration here at the beginning. But, if we wanted to, we could add some tremolo to this as well. And let's scroll back up and click play. So we're just going to cut off that LFO. So you kind of get the idea of what each of those different effects does. And of course, as you change from white to brown to pink noise, some of those sounds are obviously going to change. That's the point of the different noises. And of course, what I really dig about this is your ability to upload your own sounds so that you can create your own soundscape to sleep at night or to study or to work, whatever the case is, you can get your MP3s. In fact, let's actually scroll down here a little bit. I actually want to change the noise settings down here to 0, and I want to take the filters off. I want to just kind of play this bare. Down at the bottom, we've got the option for samples. Now, from a user interface perspective, the add sample and the upload sample, those buttons need to be switched. Upload needs to come first. You have to upload a sample before you can add the sample to your mix. So if the developer sees this, please switch those. It just, from a user perspective, it just makes more sense to upload and then add. To upload a sample, you're just going to click the upload button. Then you're just going to click right here. And then you're just going to go find whatever sound it is you want to use. And of course, there are a ton of different options: Opus, FLAC, WebM, WebA, Wave, OGG, M4A, OGA, MID, MP3, AIFF, WMA, and AU. And of course, the asterisks in there will also offer additional parameters kind of in some of those naming conventions, or file extensions rather. And so once you've got your file that you've selected, you give it a name, you click upload, and you give it a second to upload, you're good to go. And then once you've uploaded the sample or samples that you'd like to use, what you can do is click on Add Sample, and then select the sample that you'd like to use. We're going to start with a rain here, just again as an example. We're going to click Add. And now that we've got that, we've got a sample subheading here that we didn't have before. And of course, it says rain. That's the name I gave it. Over here to the right, if you decide you don't want to use this or you want to change it up, whatever, you can delete it just that simply. So we're going to go ahead and add rain back to there. And then, of course, for rain, there is a volume slider specifically for rain. So let's say you wanted to use white noise or pink noise or brown noise with rain. You could do that and mix them individually based on their volume sliders. Below that, we've got some reverb effects that we can add. Again, if we enable this, we can say pre-decay, decay, and wet. We can adjust those sounds as well, those sliders for this sound, this particular sample. So we're going to turn that off. And close that. Then our playback mode, we've got continuous and sporadic. If you select continuous looped, basically that sound will just constantly play in the background on a loop. If you select sporadic, it says not looped, plays randomly within the interval. And below that, we've got our interval specifications. Basically, what kind of, it's going to play randomly. So you need to give it some parameters of what is the minimum and the maximum. Minimum and maximum, I guess, is how you guys are going to see it. But you're going to select your minimum and maximum for how often it should show up, and then within the parameters you've given it, it will randomize the numbers inside that to decide when that should come up. But we're just going to do continuous just for demonstrative purposes here. So we've added our rain sample here. So what I want to do is click play. So there is just our rain sample that we've got available to us there. The next thing, of course, we want, let's kind of build a fuller soundscape here. Let's add an additional sample. Of course, I've already got some other stuff in here. We're gonna do thunder. I think having a thunderstorm is I love to sleep to a thunderstorm. I know a lot of people do. So let's create one. For the sake of this one, though, you don't want thunder constantly rumbling, right? You want it to be kind of sporadic. So what we're going to do is click sporadic, and I'm going to set my numbers here to 3 and 15. So kind of within those parameters, the thunder will boom and kind of do its thing. And of course, again, we've got the option to adjust our slider here for the thunder. So we're going to come back up and click play. So that kind of gives you an idea of how we started with rain, and then we added some thunder to it randomly, just to kind of give it a more natural feel to being in a rainstorm, or whatever the case may happen to be. Of course, we're just doing a sample here so you can get an idea of how you might do this. So let's add one more layer to this just for the sake of additional demonstration. We're going to click Add Sample, and I'm going to add rainforest, and that is going to be a lot of like the bird noises and kind of the stuff you would expect to hear on those old CDs TVs that your parents or your grandparents might have had, the sound machines, things like that. So now we've got our rainforest effect here. Again, I'm going to do sporadic on that. I'm going to change this one to 2 and 20 because we did 3 and 15 before. Let's change those numbers, do something a little different with this one. And now keep in mind, with each of these different layers that we're adding, we can add reverb to each one of these to give it a different effect. And of course, we can adjust the volume sliders and all that kind of thing. So now that we've added our rain, our thunder, and our rainforest, let's come back up and click play. So there we've kind of taken a look at kind of building our own rainforest thunderstorm soundscape kind of thing that I remember, you know, growing up in the late 80s and early 90s and that sort of thing, having one of these, and it just kind of, I wanted to see if I could recreate those sounds, and with NoiseDash, I was able to do that very easily, as you saw. Just uploaded some files and just kind of configured them the way I wanted to with the randomness of you know, the birds and the thunder, but keeping the rain continuous. You also may have seen there that I was adjusting the volume on the fly, you know, to bring the birds up and bring the rain down and things like that. You can absolutely change each of those different things on the fly. So there's lots of different things that you can do with this with regards to, you know, creating a soundscape like I just demonstrated here, or keeping it simple and doing a white noise or a pink noise or a brown noise with all kinds of different effects to give kind of a more dynamic approach to these different sounds to get the best possible listening experience for each individual user. Before we get into actually taking a look at how to set up users and things like that, let's actually go ahead and click on save this profile as, we're going to call this Rain Forest Thunderstorm, right? And click save. And there we go. And now that has been selected. And if I want to, I can go back to default, kind of start all over and start building more profiles from there. But that's the process you would go through to save your profile so that you can go back and listen to this at a later date if you wanted to. And again, like I said, you know, you could export this profile, select that, click export. And right there is our rainforest.json file down here. Of course, you would need to provide that person with the sound effects that you used, but you could absolutely do that. Send off, you know, your sound effects and your JSON file in a little package, upload everything, and you should be good to go at that point. But now, with that said, let's actually take a look at user administration and that sort of thing. So if we come back up to the top left up here, again, home, that's where we are. This is account. This is our account, our specific user account. We can change our password here, dark mode preference on and off. I prefer dark mode. If you watched any of my videos over the past couple of years, you'll know I prefer dark mode, so I love that that's there. You can also change your accent color to something else if you want to do that. If you don't want to use the selector, you can put in the RGB A values there and do that. And then, of course, once you've selected everything here that you'd like to change, you can click apply, and then that will take over on your account, and you'll be good to go with any of those changes that you've made. So coming back up here to the top left, we can click on admin. And of course, here is our user account and the permissions associated with that user account. So if we wanted to, we could create, or we could register a user. We're going to call this dummy, like so. So the username, the password, the name, it's all dummy, right? I can decide they're not an admin or they are an admin. They cannot upload samples or they can upload samples. And you can create individual users with different user permissions that are available. Now, if somebody does upload a sample to your configuration here, to your instance, those samples are public at that point. Once one person uploads a sample, that sample is now available to anybody who has an account on your system here. So that's something to keep in mind as well. But once we've got that taken care of, we can click register. And now we have a user account here, and on the fly, we can change these settings. Of course, we cannot change that on our own existing account, especially as an admin. We don't want to demote ourselves from admin to user and lose the ability to administer our instance here. One more thing up here at the top left is a logout option, of course. That's what that's for. And then down here, they've got a source code button that will take us right back over to the GitHub repository where we took a look earlier in this video. So now that we've taken a look at how to use NoiseDash, let's take a look at actually how to deploy NoiseDash. And it's actually pretty straightforward. So let's jump back over here and take a look at that process. So there are a couple of different ways we could go about doing this, but to understand that, let's take a look at the Docker Compose here first. If we open this up, it's a very straightforward Docker Compose. It's version 3. Our service is NoiseDash. Our image is NoiseDash/NoiseDash. Our container name, surprisingly, is NoiseDash. Our ports are set up here at 1432 on both the host and the container side of things. If somehow randomly you're already using port 1432 and you need to use a different port, be sure to only change the first half of that line right there. Don't change the colon or anything after the colon there. That's what the actual container needs on the inside to work properly. Below this, we've got some volumes for the database, some samples. That's where we will upload our samples, as well as we've also got a config /default.json. So the reason I wanted to look at this and kind of talk about, there's a couple of different ways we could go about doing this, is because we could just git clone the repository, which is how we're going to do it in this video. But that is the first method that we could take a look at. The other method is that we could, if we wanted to, come back over to here and go to the config folder here. Grab this default.json file. You may also want the production.json file. Basically download those or copy them, create those files on your server somewhere via your command line, or you could do a curl or wget, whatever the case is. Get those files on your server, and then come back over here to your Docker Compose and map this folder or this .json file in your let's say you wanted to use Portainer. You could then map this wherever it's stored on your server and deploy this via Portainer. So there's a couple of different ways you could do that. Again, we're going to clone this repository just because it's how I like to do things for stuff like this. Anyway, below all of the volumes there, we actually have to declare our volumes because we've got a database mount as well as a samples mount. Those need to be declared down there, and they are, so we're good to go. So I think what our next step is going to be, again, is to come up here to where it says code. We're just going to click the little copy icon right here. We're going to come back over to our Docker server where I'm already logged in, and then I'm going to do an mkdir. I'm just going to call this noise. And then I'm going to do a git clone. I'm going to paste that in there, and then I'm going to put this in noise like so. And now it's cloning into noise. I actually just learned about that this morning. Somebody in my comment section told me about this, so thank you for that if you happen to see this. So let's do a cd into noise and ls. And here are all of the files from over here on the GitHub repository that are now over here on our server. So what we can do is actually come over here and let's take a look at the config and the default.json. This is just kind of what's going on in here. You can change this if you need to. Like the max sample size is 10 gigs by default. You probably don't need to change that, but there are some things in this .json file that you could modify if you needed to, just by doing cd config and then nano default. And then you can come in here and just change these values as you needed to, if you needed to for whatever reason. I'm not going to change anything. I'm going to leave it as it is. We could also do production. This is left empty. Just don't touch this. It's there. Let it be. So once we're good with that, basically we're good to go. We're ready to get started here. So once we've got our configuration set up the way we want, we've cloned everything, changed our configuration as necessary, whatever the case is, we're just going to go back to here, and we're going to do a Docker Compose up-d. If you're not familiar with that command, basically it's saying, hey, Docker, or Docker Compose in this case, bring up your Docker Compose file in this directory, but do it detached. The detached or the -d is there. If it's not there, it will deploy just fine, but as soon as you close this window here, the container will shut down. So we're going to run it detached to prevent that from happening. Once we're good to go, we can click enter. and then it will go through the process of getting everything set up and ready to go.
A few moments later.
So here we are, literally just a few seconds later, because it already downloaded the images. Everything is good to go there. So we're going to come back over, and the new version of Portainer automatically reloaded. So awesome. We're going to come over here. We're going to click the ports. And the first thing we're going to do is register an account. This will be the admin account that we're going to use moving forward. So I'm just going to, again, create my account, and then I'll click register. And of course, now I need to log in with the account that I just created. So I'm going to do that. And then I'll click log in. And of course, the first thing I want to do is come up to here, go to my account, and switch to dark mode. That's so much better. We're going to click apply so that it sticks. And then we'll go back to home. And here we are where we started at the beginning of the video. So again, it's very, very easy to set up and just takes a couple of minutes. And there's a lot of really, really cool stuff that you can do with this. If you wanted to, I mentioned earlier that you could put this on a domain. You absolutely could. I'm going to get this set up on Cloudflare tunnels. And you could, of course, if you wanted to do that, you could use Nginx Proxy Manager or Traffic or Caddy or... There's so many of them out there these days. I've just found that I prefer to use Cloudflare tunnels because it doesn't involve me having to have any ports open or exposing any ports on my network to the internet. So no port forwarding, anything like that. So I use Cloudflare tunnels for that. I've actually got a video idea coming up to kind of go a bit more in depth as far as adding additional layers of security on Cloudflare tunnels. If you're interested in that, let me know in the comment section. Whether it's commenting or thumbs up, giving a thumbs up, there's the words I'm looking for, giving a thumbs up to somebody else's comment that would like to see this. If I can see some interest in taking a look at additional security with Cloudflare tunnels, I'd be happy to make that video. I'm actually kind of excited about making that video, but I'd love to know what you guys think about that. Of course, as I mentioned before, everything will be linked in the description down below for this video so that you can follow along and deploy this for yourself. Also, while you're down there, there are some ways that you can support the channel, but actually get something back. If you actually join my Patreon or dbtech.fans, you'll get ad-free access to my content. That's no baked-in ads, that's no sponsored ad, that's no YouTube ads, no ads whatsoever. If you go over to either of those platforms, again, Patreon or dbtech.fans, you can get ad-free access to all of my content that I've created over the last several months for $1 a month. If you want to do more, you can absolutely do that. But for literally as little as $1 a month, just 1 month at a time, you can get ad-free access to my content when it's available. If you want to do like a year at a time or whatever, you can actually get it for less than $1 a month. But that's up to you, however you want to handle that. Or if you don't mind watching videos with ads, that's fine too. So again, everything will be linked in the description down below. I do want to thank you guys for spending a few minutes of your day with me. Hopefully you found this video helpful or interesting. If any of those things are true, do me a favor and give the video a thumbs up. That really does help me out quite a bit in getting the word out about my content. But with that said, I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up. Again, thank you for spending a few minutes of your day with me today, and I will talk to you in the next video.